Psychotechnologies live.
Technologies live. Woo!
Yeah. Welcome
All
to
right.
Psychotech. I think we're good today. This is good. I'm excited about this one because I really like the 10 fetters. It's,
Oh, that's a controversial opinion.
well, not that I like them. They're a really very good model. That's a better way to say that.
Yeah, you like the idea on the list. You like the concept of the 10 feathers.
I like that they really clarify something.
Not necessarily
Mm.
indulging in them.
No. Well, like, who doesn't like indulging in life? That's a life thing.
Well, indulging in life, but is indulging in the 10 feathers indulging in life? Or is it
Um,
indulging in the distraction?
they're sort of meant to be thought of as like chains. Like they really get in the way of meditation and enlightenment, and they're really most of them are different types of attachment in the world.
Hmm.
So you can jump on the Wikipedia page. I can even pull that up for 2 seconds. Here, let's as unexciting as this is the Wikipedia page for the 10 fetters. There's this nice table here which describes the 4-path model: the stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and arahat, and the various fetters that sort of fall away as you meditate further and further. But you can always see for yourself on the Wikipedia page. Yeah. You've never heard of these, have you?
Not really. I've never really explored them. I've done the other model. The 4 or 5.
The 5 hindrances.
5 hindrances. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is new for me. So I'm going to play the character, the role of a person who this is new for.
Okay. The 5 hindrances.
Yeah. I am familiar with someone with the stream enter, once return, non-return, arahat. And some of these overlap with some of the other stuff.
I am grappling with my YouTube, which is not doing what I want it to do. This will take another second.
Should I read them all for the audience in the meantime?
Yeah. Be confused about them. Like, postulate some questions and I will answer them shortly.
Okay, so the first one is belief in. So they have a split up for all the people who are just listening. So they have, if you split it up into, there's a bunch of different ways to split it up, but I think there's 3 of them. So there's identity view, doubt and Buddha, aesthetic, or like attachment to rituals. And then the second category is sensual desire, ill will. And then the third category is material rebirth desire, immaterial rebirth desire, conceit, restlessness, and ignorance. And I am familiar with a lot. So that's like our huts are like past all those things. Then stream entry, once returner, would be identity view, down Buddha, and attachment to rituals, which I have definitely suffered from the attachment to rituals. I think all Orthodox people do.
Right. So there's a difference between just doing rituals and like being really attached to them. Definitely. Like, you can just be like, it's kind of fun, I like doing this one, or you can be like very attached and like, we have to do it by ritual procedure, even though the ritual doesn't cause the outcome.
Yeah. When like you have a ritual so that you like get through a thing. So like I would say like in more common life and like modern life, like we have like checklists, or we have ways of doing things, like standard operating procedures or handbooks or rules. And so like if you're in like an office setting, let's say, and there's like rules, so there's people that like will be attached to the rules versus other people are like, hey, these rules are here to like make the place better. And if they're, if it's not helping, then, we kind of don't always do it. So That's how I see it as that. That's how I see a modern application.
So I can give like a slightly more concrete version, which is if you if your habit is go for a walk every day before you sit down to do work, and then one day you're just like, oh no, I'm distracted from I've skipped my walk this morning. I can't possibly work without doing my walk. That's almost like it's a rite or ritual. The ritual, and to be honest, the ritual could help you to
Yeah.
get down to work. But if you can't do the work without the ritual, then you got a real problem.
Yeah.
And if you can't get out of the ritual, or like realize that the problem is that you have an exercise or you need to clear your head separate from the ritual.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're like, oh, I need to go for a walk, or versus like, I need to clear my head or do a little bit of exercise, blood flowing, and then like those things like might be the same until you hit an obstacle. Like, oh, I can't go for a walk, so I'll do jumping jacks instead. But if you're like, no, I need to do the walk and I can't do anything, then you have the attachment issues.
But if you were attached to specifically the ritual of the walk, and it's raining and so you can't walk, then you got a real problem on your hands.
Yeah. Or if there's like a certain route you need to take, and then there's like contractions and they can't take that route.
Like a walking path. This is where you.
Yeah. I actually just recently developed a walking path. I used to walk just like on purpose aimlessly, or like in ways that I haven't been around, so I can like explore new territory. But now we go to the park because I want to be like a regular park person, so that
I am the kind of person that regularly goes to the park.
Yeah, so I can make friends with the other parents.
Oh right, yeah, kid things.
Yeah.
When life becomes kid things.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting because I'm at the park with all the kids and parents, and I gotta just like watch them. I'm like, that's not creepy because I have a kid.
Right, you get to make friends with them. And
yeah. Also, sometimes I watch people and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Because I get like these like I get these like different schemas of like parents when I was a kid and now they're my age. So it's like they're kind of like overlapping. Where I'm like, oh, like I kind of like I get what kind of person that I get, like what clique that person would have been in high school. And also like whose parents they would have been.
Like the personality of the parents of your friends.
Yeah. I don't know. That's not connected to anything. It's just a sharing.
Oh, it's super interesting.
Cool.
I'm
glad you like it.
I have a similar noticing and surprise, and that really takes me to something like, even when I was a little kid, I could make complex evaluative judgments about someone's personality off like just a little interaction. I was like, I would be able to do that. As a little kid, I didn't know what to do with that information. I was like, oh, that's just a grumpy person, or that person is always late or whatever. And then as soon as I had that information, I immediately got mixed up with, oh, you can't be mean to people and you have to be nice. And
yeah,
it gets all muddled up by the time it got to, I spent a little bit of time with it, but I knew this stuff. I knew I could, even now I like, there was a girl when I was in like year 1 who in retrospect had like social anxiety. She barely said a word in class all year, sort of social anxiety. And at the time we were just like, oh, she's the shy kid. She's the quiet one. That's just how she is. We should get used to her, accept her like that, whatever. But in reality, she was having this huge and horrible social anxiety that mental health awareness wasn't as clear back then, and so we were just like quiet kid. But it would have been nice had we gone, oh, we can work through this with you. Like even us as fellow students would be able to talk to you about it and work through it with you, poorly, but
Yeah, if I would have had this understanding.
back
If I would have had this understanding in high school, things would have been very different.
yeah.
But that's wisdom of age and learning.
Oh yes.
Like it takes time to learn, to accumulate knowledge.
But like I think I could see through the adults as well. Like I'd be like, oh, they're messing with each other, or they're having problems getting along. And I can't do anything about it. I'm a little kid. I'm like 3, 4, seeing people going, oh, but yeah. But I had all that information. I had it with me. And I think I assume everyone can look back and be like, oh yeah, I always had all that information, but I ignored it.
Yeah.
It's like there's a book called The Gift of Fear. And it's about a guy who does high profile celebrity security detail and deals with stalkers all the time. And he works with people who've been assaulted or had something really bad happen. And usually there's a warning sign before something bad happens, like something is off, or you feel something is uncertain or out of place, and so you like there's something wrong here, and then you're like it'll be fine. Or the classic one socially is I don't like this, but I don't want to be rude.
To
the like weird strange person who's nearby.
I don't
like the presence, but I don't want to be rude. Then he retrains people to their intuition to like, oh, do you remember the signal that you had? You probably did have a signal, because we need you to be really present to that signal and able to act on it in the future.
Right.
But it's sort of like we always know, even if it's like as we travel forward through time, we don't know. But then when we look back at our memories, we become more present to a sensation or something.
Yeah,
there's a possibility that that's happening.
Yeah, that one I think is like I think there's obviously two things. So there's like you could be coloring your memories, but I do think like going back, you do tend to identify
like a sensation or something.
Like a sensation, yeah. And for me, like a lot of the times, like I had sensations and I didn't know what they meant, and so it's just like a lot of testing.
I mean, my favorite example of this is I was once in a woodworking workshop, and I was trying to cut something that, it was a very small piece, and the saw was about this big, like a machine saw, and the piece I was trying to cut was about this big. And I went to like turn on the machine and hold the thing up to the saw very carefully, and I noticed my body posture was doing this like flinching thing while holding it up to the object I was cutting up to the saw. And sure enough, the saw like caught the thing and flung it across the room. And I went, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Like the flinch in my body was so obvious and so present. And I was like, oh, now I have learned that if my body is flinching, I am not to do the thing.
Yeah. And, you want to be good aligned with your body.
Lucky for me, nothing was damaged or hurt. Even like the piece was fine, and I went and recut it and whatever. But I did it in a different way in which I wasn't flinching at the time.
That's good.
But I learned that suddenly from that body posture thing, there was information there that the part of me that was saying we need to cut the thing wasn't taking into account.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. All right. Shall we look at the fetters? Shall we go from the top?
Yeah, let's start at the top.
So the list is sort of ordered in the sequence of which one falls away first. Although some people can go in slightly different orders, but generally you start at the top ones and work your way down. Or the proposal is that the shackles sort of loosen as you spend more time meditating, as you gain more insights. So the first one is it's called identity view, or also translated as belief in a self, or
anatta.
Yeah.
Anatama. Yeah, no self.
Yeah. And it's not that like the first thing you do on the path is have no self. It's that probably the first thing you do on the path is notice that there is a confusion around yourself or your identity or your like.
Well, this is stream entry, right? Like
Right.
and when you abandon the first three fetters, you've passed even once returner. So this is like pre-stream entry. You have
Right.
these fetters.
That's right. It's right at the beginning. So it's sort of like you have a shake of your identity view is kind of shaken up. Like it's not that you completely lose your identity. It's that any instance of, and this is where things get blurry, any instance of I'm not sure about my identity is that the fetter sort of starting to wobble and starting to shake.
Yeah. It's like that identity, like when you're in that liminal space where you're like, identity? Who am I? Or like when people, the other one is like when you get people like that are all like self-identifying as things that are just like obnoxious to you.
Like,
so like
I am libertarian. I'm like, think of one of those political parties. I am a libertarian.
So for some people it's a political parties, but I identify with those. So for me it's like the NJT whatever.
Oh, the MBTI types.
Yeah, so when they're like, "Oh, I'm such a," or the other one
Sagittarius.
Yeah, what's it called? The astrology. Where they're like, I'm in this, I'm in that, and then you're just listening. You're like, this like this is too cringe for me.
So as a side note, I'm good at like developmental stage models, and I'm bad at type systems. I've just all of my lifetime type systems have been weird and confusing and not like in rationality. There's this idea of cleaving reality at the joints. Like if you have a model, you want to you want it to be clear. This is the tree and this is the not tree part. But I've always felt that type systems were not good at cleaving reality at the joints. Which is remarkable because I know people and I see people who do the type systems and the full star charts, and they're like, it's obvious, it just makes sense when you cleave reality like this. And I look at them going like, it doesn't feel like it cuts clean.
It's more fluid. Like the things we're talking about are much more like earth style versus like water style, where it's like these things are very fluid. And
that would be an interesting, I'd like to see a typology. I'd like to one day talk to a typology person and say, I don't get typologies. What does that say about which typology I am?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like with the astrology is that they told me that Sagittarius don't believe in astrology. I'm like, oh my God, you guys know me so well. That's so me.
That's so
I feel like I can play that game now. Not well, but
stupid question though. Are you actually a Sagittarius?
Yeah. I think so.
They really did get you.
Yeah.
The classic one is to this is people cracking up on the internet to the Tinder conversation where the guy says to the girl, I'm this star sign, or like ask the girl for the star sign, looks up which star sign goes well with that star sign, and then says I'm a this one. I'm a Leo because Leo matches with Sagittarius, whatever. I'm really bad at star signs, don't quote me on that. And says we had to be, and then at some point reveals the true star sign, and it's like all of that star sign shit is rubbish. Because once someone often people who feel like they know your star sign will map you, right? You have this quality, this quality. I can see that quality in you. You don't have that quality. You could have this quality, but you don't. And then to have it like a whole map built and then have it like be entirely wrong. Classic typology.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it has no predictive power. But there is something fun about exploring it if you do it right. Because like they're kind of like different qualities, right? So it's like a big one is like they have the different elements, and different elements represent different things. And like obviously, like we're not, a TV show. We're the avatar, right? We're all humans, and we're all the heroes of our own journey. We all embody, all of them to a certain extent. And so it's like like these games are like fun. I find these things are more fun um when you like you go through them and you find like which ones you're overly attached to and which ones you reject, because you really should be like able to do all of them on some level.
Well, so what they say, there's the Enneagram is a type system, and what they say in the Enneagram, it's a system of 9 types, is that your fundamental suffering will shove you into your type. So the way in which the first bad thing happened to you will shape you into your compensation strategy, which is one of the 9 types of personality. And obviously you can have sort of 2 major types or 3, one with a minor type. But it's the way in which you desire the world to be different because of your fundamental suffering is the type of personality that you lean to. For example,
yeah, and people can get stuck in, I think, a type.
Right. But the proposal from Enneagram is that the way to heal that is to A, lean into your type, and B, recover your trauma, and C, like work on the other strengths as well, so that you have more of a fluidity of which mask you get to wear, as opposed to being stuck in just the one type.
I hear that. That's like psychology level.
Yeah. With the like, this is the broad brush of the system, but you want to move. This is a positive psychology. The what's his name?
Keegan.
No, not Keegan. Who did the authentic happiness? What was his name? Seligman, Martin Seligman. He did VIA, values in action, which is a sort of strengths and weaknesses quiz. And the proposal is you find your strengths and your weaknesses, and then, classically applied to business, you find which aspects of the business world are your strengths and which ones are your weaknesses. And then your awesome company, because you work with an awesome company with a great HR department, allocates you to your strengths and gets someone else who's got those other things as their strengths, where your weaknesses are, get someone else to do those jobs. Right. And then at the same time, we can practice your weaknesses to try and improve them if you want to, but also play to your strengths. And then we can balance you out as a well-rounded human, but play to your strengths. Like, it doesn't hurt to just play to your strengths.
Yeah, you got to do that. Yeah. Like, I'm running a business now, and like I get people that are strong in the area that I need, and they're weak in other areas, and nobody cares because I'll just get someone else to do the areas they're weak in. But they all have to be able to work with people.
Yes. Well, you don't want to be really weak in an area. Let's say you hate numbers and you're scared of the numbers. You're not gonna do your tax very well, and you're not going to be able to help someone help you do your tax very well, and you're not going to be able to trace your invoices if you're scared of the numbers. You need at least a certain amount of competency there. Otherwise, it just,
you need like basic, like, you can't get away without being able to add and subtract and multiply and stuff,
or like being willing to look in that area. If you're traumatized by the math because of your 8th grade math class, like,
if you
got to sort that stuff out,
you're gonna have a hard time doing it.
Right.
But I don't know. Like, I think like in like my experience in the job market and like the real world and stuff has been like unable to find that fit, because like you got to find the fit, and like the more unique you are, the more specialized you are. If you're specialized in ways that aren't common, then it's very hard to find your niche.
I feel like what might be fun to do on another stream is to there's a values in action character quiz, and we can sit on the stream and play the quiz and talk about why the questions say what they say and how they speak to the certain values. And that might be fun for another one, because we're in the middle of the fetters and we're
oh yeah, we're in the middle of the fetter. Which one's the fetter where you get distracted by things?
That's I'd say probably restlessness, number 9. So we'll get there.
Okay. That's later, and that's our hot level, and I'm not our hot, so I'm still allowed to be restless.
Well, it's not that the lower levels don't, the lower stages like of the 4-path model don't get these fetters. It's that they don't really fall away until later.
Yeah.
So you'll be still having restlessness well and truly into thinking you're getting there on your awakening path.
I am on my awakening path, but I still have
Right.
restlessness.
Of
Now
course.
we know I'm not arhat level.
Mm.
So I don't have to take on that pressure.
Yeah, totally. Right. So identity view.
No rebirths for arhats. That's it. Like you're dead, right? Once you finish your life, that's it.
And no, it doesn't mean you are currently dead. It means that you won't be reborn.
Yeah, you won't be reborn. Like this is it.
Right. As in, like, you get to live your true and final life and have an awesome time without like desiring and suffering in various ways. But wait, let's slow down. Let's go back to number 2.
All right, whatever.
All
Okay,
right.
yeah. So first one is identity view. Yeah. So like how strongly do you identify, and then how like I guess like how strong like do you have identities? How strong is your identity? How much you identify with? How much space do you have in between that? Can you shift it? Can you change it? Like I think those would be like good questions to
Right.
explore for the identity level. And if you're like, yeah, I don't care about any of that stuff, then you're probably let it go. You've probably abandoned it.
Mm. Or if you're like starting to be a bit fluid, like who am I? Some days I'm like with one friend group, I'm like this, but with that friend group, I'm like that. Who am I really? That's like starting to shake that identity view.
Yeah, I think identity always exists as like object, like it's like a thing. But you're not attached to it.
Mm.
This is my opinion.
I would say at first you exist through your identity and you don't even notice an identity. You're just like, that's just how I am. And then suddenly you notice an incongruence in your identity. And that's when you start like being like, what is this identity thing that I exist through? Sometimes I'm like this, sometimes I'm like that.
I think different people go about differently. I think some people they get their sense of self from their identity as well.
Right. And then we start to shake the identity and the sense of self gets confused.
Yeah. Oh, if I'm not this, then who am I?
Right. Or how will I know who I am? Or how will I know what I actually like?
Yeah. And it's like, dude, that you've had this problem the whole time. You just haven't noticed.
You just noticed just this week.
Yeah.
Right. So the fetter number 2 is called doubt in the Buddha.
Doubt in the Buddha.
Which is complicated because it's not quite
Lord and Savior, or else
say again.
You will not. Accept the Buddha as your Lord and Savior, or else you are not enlightened.
So it's not meant to be.
It's not this at all. Some people
not meant to be a ritual at all. No, it's it's and sometimes it's translated differently as to like doubt in the path. So at some point you're like, life is bad, life is weird, life is, there's something going on here. And then you have a spiritual realization of one kind or another, and you're like, oh, there's this spiritual thing. Like there's definitely this spirit. I don't know what it is yet, but there's definitely a spiritual thing. And that's the like the falling away of doubt.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll happen.
Spirituality exists. And like in this situation, I think also they're saying like, do you understand like the cycles and the way it works and things like that?
Oh no,
like,
you might not understand yet.
Well, at least some of it, yeah. Like, is this real to you, or is this like just shit you say because this is what everyone says?
Well, sometimes people will have a moment of like, oh, I have no doubt, and then 2 weeks later they'll be like, I said that at the time, and now I'm a little bit doubtful again.
Yeah.
And so they'll have to do another cycle before they get the like, oh, I have no doubt that there's something spiritual. I don't know what it is, but there's something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this shit is real. And you can still not know, I think.
So the proposal is also that if you have this doubt thing, you might go to sit down and meditate. This is a meditative path. So you might go to sit down and meditate, and you get distracted by the doubt. You'll be like, why am I meditating? Like, what's the point of this? You'll be like, I don't know what this is for. And that's pretty bad in terms of distraction.
Yeah, like why am I doing this?
Yeah. And that'll completely take you away from, you'll be following your breath, and then you'll be like, why am I doing this? And you'll be like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, what's the point of this? There doesn't seem to be a point. Like, and then you'll leave. You'll stop meditating. You'll be like, oh, I don't seem to be able to stay meditating because I
think there's a good path in that way. Like you could do that. You'd be like, why am I doing this? And then you could like sit with it until the realization shows up, which is that, it's like a realization why you're doing it, and then you do it, or actually I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing something else.
Well, it's also that doubt is quite a tricky. It's on this list because it's a really fickle. I'm gonna say like poison, or maybe it's more like a taint. Like it just puts everything a little bit off color, and because you're off color, you can't really tell what you should be doubting or what you shouldn't be doubting. Like, should be you be doubting yourself, or should be you be doubting what this person said to you about how to do the spiritual path, or should you instead, like, should you agree with that person and then instead agree with this person? And doubt's a very tricky one because until you've uprooted it, there's a great confusion as to what to believe.
Yeah, but you don't need. Yeah, I think that the post doubt is you don't need to
Right.
believe.
There is some of like you can trust,
Like
or
if you doubt, then you don't know, and like that's okay.
Right, but there is a difference. Like being at peace with not knowing is different to like doubt. Like doubt is actually like you don't know that. How do you know that? Where are your sources? Whereas not knowing would be all like, I didn't know that. How do you know that? It's got a curiosity to it.
Yeah, and there's no, and this is like the doubt in that, like the spiritual path, like you can't point to it. Like it's not a thing, like it's not an object. You can't really measure it per se.
Doubt in the spiritual path is like, is there even a spiritual path? What do you mean by spiritual path? I'm not even sure there is.
Well, that could be because you've left it. Like you leave samsara, you get this freedom, and you're like, oh, there is no path.
Right. So particularly if you're not suffering enough, you don't need the spiritual path. You'll just be like, life is great. You never encounter suffering. And so you don't need to end your suffering because you don't encounter your suffering. Spiritual path is really relevant to if you're having a bad time. You might have noticed that everyone having a bad time sort of gets drawn to the spiritual path.
Yeah, or if you want to have a good time.
Yeah. But you only want to have like a better time if you're not currently having a good time.
Yeah, but everyone has that. Like unless you're liberated from samsara, you're having a bad time.
I've known people who just never quite got on the spiritual path, but they were pretty happy already, and so they sort of didn't need to.
Like things are fine.
They may like
good for them.
in another chunk of years of their life, like 10 or 20 years later, they may go through the midlife crisis version of it rather than the like
but I think
for now they're like happy.
Yeah, I think like if you're like born in a good situation and then you create good karma, like you make good karma, like you don't necessarily need it because everything's pretty much just working fine.
Yeah.
So
although it's likely that if you live in the same universe as me, that there's some stuff going wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
And
just I don't know anyone like that. You might just read about them in stories and TV.
You might start to notice this stuff going wrong and then start to notice you're suffering and then start to be like, oh, I want to do something about this, and then start the journey of the spiritual path. But you need to really acknowledge or notice the suffering before you actually go on the path.
Yeah, and you need to stop doubting things. Like you need to stop doubting yourself or doubting experience.
Right. So either doubting the path or doubting yourself, because
it's really experience, because this is move away from identity view, and then you're no self.
Right.
But the experience itself is still real.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I don't really know anything except I know that there's something happening, right? Like I'm seeing Daniel right now. I know that I'm seeing Daniel right. I don't know much else, but I know that.
You're experiencing seeing me right now. That's a big one. That was like how I got to like solid ground, where I'm like, okay, there's this thing happening and I don't know if it's real or not, but I know that I'm thinking about a thing and I don't know if it's real or not.
So I would almost call that like the truth of the present moment.
Sure.
That I can see what's going on right now, and that gives me some like, I guess I'm totally new to the world, but at least I know this.
Yeah,
I have all
like
my
at least I know I'm
memories.
confused, or that I don't know what's going on, or that like a thing happened, or that I think a thing happened. Right? That was a big one. It's like I think this happened, and I know that I think that happened. I don't know if it happened, but I know I think it did.
Mm, right. And then you're self-aware about
And
thoughts.
then that's it. Like there's no more doubt because now I'm on a layer of realness.
Right.
And it's very, very small at the beginning,
Right.
but then that can grow.
Yes. So it does take a bit longer till permanently you're like, oh, I'm clear on what I know and hopefully clear on what I don't know. And therefore, like doubt, I'm clean about what I do and don't doubt.
Well, you just need like one. I found for me, like you just need one piece of something that's real.
Right.
Right.
To,
And then
I'm talking about more permanently getting rid of doubt fully.
oh, so for me, it's just like one piece of real and then another piece and then another piece, another piece. And then like that part of me that's able to see what's real gets stronger
Right. Right.
and has more experience.
Absolutely. It gets stronger and then it builds to a greater confidence in what I have previously also treated as real.
Yeah. And then eventually even that all that falls away and you're like, I didn't do any of that in the first place. I know what's real. And I knew it the whole time. I was just in doubt.
Right. That's right. That is the journey.
Yeah.
But the like so doubt starts to fall away really early and then it doesn't fully fall away until later, a while later when you're like, oh, I never needed this. When the thing you described, oh, I never needed this anyway, and I was just in doubt. Is the like permanently falling away of doubt.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, like I think I don't really have any internal doubt. I have like doubt about other people's stuff.
Right.
Like people say things and I'm like, I doubt that. But that's like external to me. That's not internal.
Right. So sometimes people will, there's a mistake here of like, my doubt will fall away. And then I go like, oh, I have no doubt. That means I know everything, which is not actually true. It's that I know what I know. And it's important. And you know, the first thing I go is I know everything. And then I realize I don't. And so I
know or I don't know. There's no doubt.
Right. But the clarity of I don't know is also important. Like I do know and I don't know. Which at first, when you realize that your doubt is falling away, you're like, you could almost step into like, oh, I know all the things.
Yeah. And you could do that because you never doubt everything is real.
You might recognize people that you've met on the spiritual path in that moment of like, I know everything. Wait, do I? Like,
because no, I have experienced that where I know everything, but really like I know this thing is that I know that I don't know it, but I like my brain is like, you know this. The answer is you don't know.
Right. You know all about this. You know exactly everything that you know about this is
and nothing. You're like totally accurate. You come in, I don't know what's going on. This is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And like that's true, but it's like
you also don't
that effect size to other people is not much.
Right. So I mean, I name it because I made this mistake. I was like, there's a falling away of my doubt. I'd call it like a confusion on the past. So the falling away of my doubt, like, wow, I know everything. And then when I tried to like actually access the knowledge of everything, my brain goes, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But it was the sense that maybe it's everything is knowable, or like
everything what you want to do there when you access it is you're accessing your experience of the world like as such, and then that's the most knowing. That then you've maximized your knowingness of the situation. Doesn't mean that it's like useful to anyone, but it is the most knowing.
Well, it's kind of only useful to you at first, and then until you can like
but then
make a model and make it useful to others as well.
Useful. When you experience things as they are, you become useful to other people.
Well, it's almost like I would say there's a like steering true, and when you can see it true, then other people can see that you're steering true. They can trust you as well, and then they can verify themselves on you as well. So that's number 2, doubt. It's kind of and like there's the shaking of doubt, and then there's the falling away, and then there's like you don't know, but there's a deeper level of doubt that also falls away like a while later, which is Like you'll be perfectly happy on a spiritual meditative journey for a while, and then the rest of doubt will fall away, and you'll be like, oh, that's way better.
Yeah, I still have doubt sometimes, but when it shows up, it's much more like I fucked up somewhere. like I confused reality at some point. Instead
So
of
I
like
would say
shit.
I was talking to someone recently, and the way I was in like a group conversation, the way they were acting, they were trying to take control of the group and trying to tell people how to do things. And instead of what could have come up for me was, or what came up for me was like, I don't like how they're doing that. I can see what they're doing. What could have come up with, oh no, I'm being mean. I doubt that I'm very spiritual, right? But actually, my doubt has mostly fallen away. And so I was like, oh, I see what they're doing. That's fine. Like, this is silly. They clearly, there's desire and suffering going on in them that makes them want to control the group and get, and so like they can do it, but I'm just going to be compassionate and work around them in the group. But I'm not going to like doubt my understanding of them and doubt my perception of them and doubt my kindness in the world, because I don't have that doubt of me.
That's a big one. Yeah, getting that strength and like that, not doubting yourself and not doubting like the things you believe in, your values and whatever. Even when you see something that goes against that.
So I would say that ultimately, for doubt to really fall away, the rest of doubt to fall away, like that's like you need to embrace every part of you, including the parts of you that seem to have ill intentions. So there was a part of me that was like, shut that person up, like say something to like reject them, and you know, I was like, oh yeah, I can see how that could be useful, but also that could be that's not going to help. That's not the compassionate way to help here. And so, but I didn't reject part of me for saying that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true, but that's also not the right way to say it. But I at no moment did I doubt the value of that part of me, or like that part of me that really had a good idea of like cut through what the person is saying.
Yeah.
And that's a personal integration thing. Like I don't have a doubt in myself. This list says doubt in Buddha. There's another translation, doubt in path. But like you said, doubt in your own experience.
Yeah. Like doubt that this isn't like a thing. Like this stuff we're talking about is real. You could doubt that I'm correct, but you can't doubt that it's like this thing exists.
Oh, well, maybe it's like
thing.
I can doubt that you're correct, but I can't doubt that you said the thing. Like I heard what you said, hopefully.
Yeah.
If I heard what you said, I heard what you said.
I think even this, like the things we're talking about, like at the very least, like there exists phenomenon that we're trying to grapple with. And you could think that we're doing it badly, and that's fine. But if you're not like,
there's the doubt in the phenomena. Like, is there really a world out here at the touch of my fingertips?
Yeah,
it's like I guess the simulation doubt. That's a fun one.
Yeah, but simulation one is like, I don't know. Like, I don't even see this as like a sensical argument for anything, because like what's the difference? Or like, okay, we're all living in simulation. Now what?
It's a pretty damn good simulation. Well, like
no, but like, okay, like, what does this do? Like, this updates me in no direction at all.
Right. Does nothing. So I would say there's something like models that this is a John Vervaeke thing. You have a model, right? A floating model, like we're in a simulation, right? And if that is true, then this model has explanatory power forwards on all sorts of phetnomena, like
it has
we're not in control of the world. Well, it could. We're not in control of the world because it's a simulation.
No, whether or not the universe is a simulation has no explanatory power at all, aside from like slight like statistic stuff, in the sense that statistics say we're probably in a simulation. So like but like whatever, like that doesn't mean anything. Like there's nothing aside from like the proofs of it. Like there's nothing. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing.
It's a floating model.
There's no differential.
It's like determinism versus free will, like floating model.
Yeah, there's no differential.
If everything is determined, then so what? Kind of.
If everything's determined, so what? And if everything's free, so what? Like just always do free choice, and if it's determined, then it doesn't matter. And if
you made the good choice anyway. Daniel's 2-second philosophy.
No,
I know you're serious. It's just
I'm
to
serious.
summarize a long-term philosophy into like 2 sentences and be like, duh.
No, this
feels
is
like a
obviously
shortcut.
true. I don't know why people won't accept this. I think there's a lot of other stuff like with the determinism versus free will. I think this is like a good argument because I think sometimes, like I think it refers to something different, like not just this like abstract philosophical concept of like a general thing. I think it's like sometimes it's determined, sometimes it's free will. Like, you get stuck in the samsara, you think you have free will, but you don't have free will until your freedom. You know what I mean? Like there's things there and like mental health and ego syntonic, ego dystonic. Like these are all like nuancing the difference between determinism and free will. But if you're talking like on a physics perspective, like who gives a shit? Like it means nothing.
Hmm.
And
Well, on a
having a
physics
simulation or not also means
on a
nothing.
physics perception level, we're like microparticles like colliding with each other. Okay. Free will determinism doesn't matter. We're tiny particles colliding with each other
I mean,
and interacting.
like like yes, but also like like I still want to eat ice cream. Like
yeah,
it just doesn't do anything.
Yep.
But like not that I'm dissing physics. Like I think physics is awesome. And by the way, I was learning about Higgs boson yesterday, and like I don't know if this is true, but like the way he's describing it, I'm like, I think this is like in like the discovery and like the theory and all that stuff is like equivalent to like Einstein stuff. Like everyone's saying that there's no breakthroughs in physics, and like I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they're just not. They just haven't sold it nicely. There's no good story. There's no Einstein level stories, but like Higgs boson and stuff, like they're talking like that the four fundamental forces, or at least the electromagnetism and gravity themselves, like some things have particles, some particles have mass, some don't. That means that like some things exist as gravity and some things exist as electromagnetism. Like they're just like different. Like there's like this like weird thing where they're just different forces interacting with each other, and like all particles are a result of these forces, which means that like matter doesn't exist how we've been conceptualizing it. Like it's just the intersection of these different things, of these four different things. And so we're just at this like weird, like it can like if someone like did this properly and like explain the story properly, which I don't feel like I'm doing well, like it would completely change the way we conceptualize the world, the universe. Which may, but I don't know, like maybe I don't know, because I'm not really like good with this like quantum mechanics stuff, like this anything below like atoms, I don't really know. But it's, I don't know, like it's crazy. Like that could be like a huge revelation that we just don't talk about for some reason.
I think knowledge takes a while to filter to mainstream. All right, fetter number 3.
No, but Einstein stuff came right like pretty quick.
Yeah, there was a conversation about why Einstein was so famous and why he got spun as such a genius.
Yeah,
and it was sort of like a media sensational.
Yeah, it was a media thing,
and the media changed since then, so it can't really happen again.
Yeah,
not that he wasn't also great, but it was a little bit hyped up by them.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I think physics has had its revelations, just nobody cared, or they didn't have a good story.
All right, fetter number 3.
Yeah, aesthetic or ritual rules. So we kind of talked about the rituals.
So attachment to rites and rituals, particularly.
Yeah, so when we do our Psychotechnologies live, like that's our ritual.
That's a ritual. Right? Oh shit, are we attached? Well, this is the thing. Are we attached? If we're not attached, then like it's fine.
It feels alive. It feels alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're doing an obligation. It doesn't feel. It feels like it's like this thing that we do. And like
I have fun doing the little.
Yeah, me too. I like it also like test. Like I get a taste of where we're at.
It's like a touch point of like, are we excited or are we dull or are we?
Yeah, like what are we feeling right now? I gotta signal what I feel. I gotta hear what you have to say, and then we can like kind of like match.
the real live exchange of
Where are
energy
we
levels.
going with this? Oh my god, I watched this movie yesterday. It's just a distraction. It's on, I forgot what it's called, but it's on rock and roll. Sorry, not rock and roll, it's on heavy metal.
Oh,
And the guy's like, this is metal, that's metal, whatever, right? And then like there's like a scene where he's like, the other guy is just like kind of going along with it. And then he gets to this point where he's like, you're always talking about metal, and like I don't know what you mean when you say that.
oh
So
no.
then they go on he's like, I'll show you, and he like does this like crazy shit, and he's like, that's what metal is. Guy's like, okay, I'm down. I don't know why it reminded me of this.
Well, we're going through like identity view, right? That's the
Yeah.
what is metal anyway?
Yeah, so they got all these things and all these things associated with metal, but like metal has the spirit, and then they do the things to like invoke the spirit of metal.
Mm.
And there's a scene where he's like, he he gets to the point in the story where he has like this like hard decision to make, and then all the former like rock gods, right, or metal gods, sorry, I keep thinking of rock and roll because it's like pretty much that, but they just said metal. They're just doing the metal version of that. And they all all the spirits come to him and talk to him and things like that.
Great.
But yeah, so that's like fun. I like metal. It like gets me into that space as well. So I think rituals are fun and fine, but like yeah, it's not about the rituals, it's about the life that the rituals invoke or get
Right.
into.
Like you should be living a good life because it's filled with awesome chanting rituals that are kind of fun to hang out with. But if it's like lame and rubbish chanting rituals that you're obligated to do, then maybe there's a problem and you shouldn't be participating.
Yeah, like if they're not doing anything, they're not doing anything.
Right. If they are just ritualized for no purpose, then you should be questioning them. Great. Congratulations. Starting to question rituals is one of the stepping stones on the spiritual path, and the desire to abandon. So I found this one when I was around this territory. I had a desire to abandon meaningless rituals. Like, why do we do that? Let's not do it. Like, what if I don't do it? Like,
Yeah,
what's it like if I skip that?
and that could be hard. Like I have that because like
Well,
when I was
it can
Orthodox,
sort
I
of
had rituals and I let go of them all, and I still have habits. Like there are certain habits, things that I just like start doing without realizing, like certain blessings.
I would say that it can drive a wedge between you and your family and your upbringing, because you suddenly are like, but why are we doing it?
Yeah, and then all this other stuff gets attached to it, like all the rituals for this, but then like because the context that you live in, all these things come around it. And then it becomes, well, I'm doing the ritual so that all these other like external things, and that becomes poison really quickly.
So they start falling away, and then I had a little bit of a toxic relationship. Like I would get very annoyed by people who do ritual things. Like someone classic in the hippie space is like, we're going to enter the room and then we're going to do a check-in, and then we're going to just let everyone speak, and then we're going to continue on with the conversation or the event or that we were having, but we have to do the check. I'm like, that check-in's going to take an hour and it's not important because it's not to do with, like, we just need to get shit done. Like we don't need to, like, I got very frustrated with the rituals that don't seem to actually add value. Which admittedly the hippies usually add value.
As well. And like the land acknowledgements, like holy shit, like talk about rituals. Talk about meaningless rituals now.
Well, if they're meaningful, that's great. If they're not meaningful, damn straight we should be questioning them. Yeah. Anyway, so then there's the like there's a strong questioning of them, and then at some point you can get to a place where you're kind of at peace with them, and like sometimes they happen and it's not too bad.
Rituals have actually become interesting to me because to me it's just like someone's like saying a thing and everybody's responding in a certain way. Like that's really cool to watch. kind of like, I don't know if it's like cheating, like when you're like, or if everyone's like close your eyes and like you keep your eyes open, you're just like,
Ooh.
you told me to close my eyes. Doesn't mean I have to close my eyes. You're not the boss of me. You're not my real mom.
Right. It's got some fun to it at least.
Yeah. It's like cool shit. But then like if someone's like doing a ritual and you're like, you don't know if it's gonna happen. Like if you're certain it's gonna happen, you can do whatever you want, but sometimes they'll try to do it and like people won't go along with it. And so I feel like I get to decide, like, do I like this ritual or not? And if I like it, then I go with it. And if I don't like it, I don't go with it.
It's also like a good ritual. I want to be cautious here. Like a good ritual is one where you don't have to participate. It's like if I said something like standing for the national anthem, like you don't actually have to sing, you can just stand around.
Well, you still have to stand.
It is considered respectful to stand, and people will complain if you don't, but you don't have to participate and really like belt out the words yourself. You can just sort of stand.
Yeah, you can stand, but like you can't be on your phone. You can't, you know what I mean? Like you can do those things, but then there's like you can physically do those things. And I think if you don't realize you can do them, you're not free. But once you realize you're free there, and then you can do them,
it's still considered respectful to do.
Is created in such a way that there's going to be a high cost to doing that.
Right. So it's important to be able to see through them. It's also important to be able to see their usefulness. It's also like, if you think of,
to a certain extent, I think rituals are now violence.
If you think of like a coming of age ritual, there is a point to that, or like a growing up or a changing phase of life ritual. Like
we have like bar mitzvahs and stuff.
Judaism has a bar mitzvah. I was also thinking other ones like getting married as a ritual. So I talked to someone once who was a father.
Getting married is a weird ritual too. As someone who's gotten married, and that was
not arguing. Yeah. I would say so. One that's interesting. I talked to someone once who was a father who was confused that he wasn't more attached to his kid, and I was like, oh, one thing that could help this person is a ritual. Like the kid was just like 6 months old.
Interesting. I actually have a friend that has attachment with their kid. Like the love stuff hasn't kicked in properly.
Yeah, my advice to that person was that sometimes it'll take until the child entity can actually look back at you and do something dynamic and interesting for you to be like, oh, there's a real person in there, rather than just a blob that screams.
They're past that stage.
Right. Yeah.
They're past that. The child is dynamic and well, I don't know. Like, although I don't know, because like I coincidentally, very very quickly after having a kid, all kids became very interesting to me.
Right.
So it is hard.
Well, it's also
if they're interested.
I would say it's in the adult to perceive depth in the child, and if the adult doesn't perceive depth, then of course they're boring. They're just like a flat blob.
Yeah, but I mean, like I perceived depth. It was like 30 seconds. Like it started like 30 seconds after I held my son.
Yeah,
he was like crying.
Some people take a bit longer.
Stop crying, and then his breathing patterns. I was like, oh, there's like someone here trying to figure out how breathing works.
Nice.
It was like literally like 30 seconds after I held him.
But before he was born, it was probably hard to get the sense of, oh, there's a real
okay.
Unless you felt the kicking.
Before he was born, I was also playing that because I was like poking back, but it wasn't like there wasn't a lot going on, but there was like something, like there was a little back and forth. But then he got too big and he was all like squishy and stuff, and I didn't want to like bug him. You know what I mean? But when he still had room inside.
That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
All
okay.
Right,
so actually,
number 4.
My bad.
You want to talk about number 4?
Number 4.
So number 4 is also a transition. So if you look at the stages as well, stream entry and once returner really struggle with these first 3, and when they start falling away a bit more is when you're started being in the territory of non-returner.
Yeah. So stream entry is what, like that's when you That's when you're like awakened. It was seeing the Dharma, and thereby drop the first three fetters.
It's the first glimpse of like, oh, there is a path. Oh, I don't know who I am, and
Oh,
why
like,
do we do
oh,
these right?
this is what's going on. This is what people are talking about.
Yeah, the
This is
first
a
glimpse,
thing.
I would say, is the entry to the stream, and
Yeah.
then you obviously fall away.
But
Unless
then you
if
fall
you have
away,
really
like you
good
see it and then
support,
you lose
sometimes you
it.
rush through it and you get to the next stage quickly. But
Yeah.
if you don't, then you may fall completely out of it and be like, what happened last week? And then have to go do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. So you're like kind of awakened and then you see the thing, but then a thing, and then you go back in and you lose the insight. But
Yeah.
then you come back. And so they're saying,
And you go, wait, what happened to my insight? Why did my insight disappear? That's crazy.
Yeah.
How do insights disappear?
It is cool. It is cool because like some people do realize, and they're like when that happens, and they're like, oh, insight, not insight. Like, oh, I was asleep then. Like, like I wasn't
Right. That's why there's
aware.
a waking metaphor here of like awaken asleep.
Yeah, because it does feel like awake.
Right. When
It's
you
like,
wake up, you're like, oh yeah, I'm now much more
oh,
awake.
like no, this is real. That wasn't.
Mm.
And then you get once returner. So once returner means
It's sort of like you got to do at least another one cycle.
yeah, I guess you've done the whole cycle and you're back and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing the cycle where I where I lose consciousness and this is a normal thing.
Mm.
And I guess I don't panic.
Like you had a once glimpse and then you return to the cycle of suffering.
Yeah. Okay. So it's first time that you awaken and then you come back. That's once returner.
Mm.
And then non-returner is
you don't keep going back to
I'm
that
not going
oblivious
back.
thing.
I'm staying here.
So there's two
things.
There's two fetters in this stage according to this particular.
Yeah. Sensual desire and ill will.
Yeah, sensual desire and ill will. Let's tackle those. So sensual desire is, I would say, desire for anything physical and tangible. So if you're like, I want ice cream.
So like
if you're like, I want a food, I want like
hedonistic pleasures.
Right. All of that is sensual desire. You desire things, sensuality. So delicious food or like to go on a holiday. Sensuality. So again, you are.
I don't know if I desire, but I do. I don't know. Like I like good food.
Right. So
I put in effort to make it.
Fundamental to the path is not just that you have desire, it's that there's a type of desire that causes suffering. There's a way in which you can go like, I am so hungry, it hurts, and cause yourself extra suffering with that hungry, rather than going like, right now I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten breakfast. It's like it's getting on in the day and I haven't eaten anything yet.
Like, so you shouldn't enjoy it. It's that when you like crave it and run after it. Yeah. So like we got some like really fancy chocolates because someone gave someone chocolates, and so I got to eat some of them, and I really enjoyed it. But I'm not like, it wasn't like addiction. It wasn't compulsion. It wasn't like I need to. It was, oh, like I appreciate eating these chocolates.
I like that, the chocolate test of stages of a stage on the fourth path model.
Okay.
I would say that it's if you can buy the really fancy, delicious chocolate and have it in your house without having to go for it, like it's there and you don't have to. It's like, oh yeah, those are really nice chocolates, and like maybe later I'll have it, but I don't have to have it just because it's here.
Yeah. I definitely used to be like that.
That's like a breaking out of sensual desire. If you still get
much
occasional like you're sitting doing something, you're like, you know what, let's make today better. One of them chocolates over there. But as soon as you are like, if it's like, I would say even if you see the chocolate and you're like, that could be nice, and you don't have to have it, like that's like you're a lot more free of sensual desire.
I often think about it and I imagine me doing the experience and seeing if I'm going to enjoy it or not.
Like by all means have enjoyable experiences, but if it's real, like the craving for the
but sometimes it's just like, like it's like if you sometimes like like you feel guilty and then you eat it, and like then you don't taste it, you just feel your guilt. I find that like that's when I tend to I don't really do that so much anymore, but like I think in the past, when like I've eaten like too many chips or something, it's because I'm not being present. I'm not enjoying the chips. I'm experiencing a thing that I'm trying to deal with that experience by eating chips. And it doesn't really help the experience, and doesn't really help the chips. And so you kind of just, it doesn't go well. So but yeah, like I do find when I genuinely enjoy the thing, it does, like it releases the craving. Like I don't need to have it so much anymore.
Right. So essential desire applies to all manner of concrete. I would say like going on a holiday, the desire for to see a beautiful sunset. It would even be like a desire to see it. I desire to fill my senses with the view. And it's really quite concrete in the like, I want the concrete things. Even it's like, I want to sit in a hot tub. I want to feel like I want to massage.
I want to sit in a hot tub. I was in the bathtub the other day and like I don't fit because it's a bathtub.
Oh, yeah, that's a sad thing about being an adult. Bathtubs now not big enough.
Yeah, I gotta get a hot tub. This is my new goal. I don't think they let in the condo.
Hot tub. There's nothing wrong with having a hot tub and enjoying a hot tub, but if you are like, I have to have a hot tub, that would be the real essential desire.
I don't have to, but I really want to.
It can just be fun. But yeah, so that's sensual desire. And the way there's, I was just thinking like,
there's counters to all of these too, right?
Right, how to like get out of them, how to overcome them.
Yeah, there should be
there is probably a list of like, if you're stuck on this one, here's how to work with it.
Yeah, we should have done that.
I was just kind of thinking like, I don't know how I specifically got out of essential desire other than like recognizing suffering itself. So in sensual desire, there's a like, oh, I want a thing, and then you might go get it, and then you're like, oh, I want another thing, and you might go get it, and you're like, oh, I want another. You're like, I'm so sick of wanting things because I just keep, as soon as I get them, I want another one. And so there's some recognition of the suffering of the like the endless sensual desire. I want this thing and that thing, and that's a like a turning away from the world to like, I can feel like I do want it, but actually I don't want it. You know, it's because I don't want how annoying it is to chase after things. And so that's a falling away of sensual desire. You're like, no, I don't want that. I don't want sensual desire at all.
Interesting. Yeah, I went a different route. I went more like I want to enjoy the thing.
Right. I only want to enjoy it if I'm enjoying it.
No, like I want to enjoy this, and then sometimes I don't enjoy it, and sometimes I do. And also I want satisfaction. Like I want to be satisfied. I want to eat and enjoy it and be satisfied. And so I'm like trying to construct the reality in such a way that I get those things, and then it becomes a lot more like internal than external.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then also the other one is like for like the junk food, because I want to lose weight. I'm like, well, I'm only going to eat this if I really enjoy it. Like I got to maximize the amount of I got to maximize the joy from the calories that I'm getting.
Yeah, interesting. Makes sense. Like I know people who next to the junk food they'll put alternatives like fruit. Like you can just eat the fruit.
Yeah, we got a lot of fruit, and that kind of, I've been eating a lot of fruit recently.
It's great.
Oh my god, I gotta tell you about this fruit experience I had.
Ready for this is a full sensual desire phenomena that he's about to share. So let's drop this bombshell.
This was peak sensual desire. This wasn't even desire because I didn't even know. I was just, this is like, it's sensual pleasure, but like post desire, because like I didn't even know what was going on. It was like Friday night, we're like high and stuff and enjoying ourselves. And so we have these things, they're called sweeties.
Is this a lemonade lemon or?
No, this is This is a cross between a pomelo and a grapefruit.
Ah, okay.
It's genetically engineered by Israel. And
Right.
they sell them at Costco, and they're awesome.
Mhm.
And I had the craziest experience with it because I'm like eating it, and there's something about it that's it's like a little bit flavorless.
Mm.
Like it tastes good, but like you ever have like a grapefruit and it just like pops, or like an orange and it pops. And this is it's sweet and it tastes good, but it doesn't have any flavor. And as we were eating it, I was realizing this has no flavor. It's the archetype. It's like not the archetype, but it's like the proto citrus fruit. It's like,
Oh,
imagine you had citrus
generic.
fruit, like grapefruit, huh?
It's generic citric.
Yeah, it's like, imagine you had a citrus fruit. Imagine this is the way citrus fruit worked. You had citrus fruit, and then you injected it with flavors. So you put in grapefruit or orange or
Mandarin,
mellow, mandarin, whatever. Like you added those flavors to it,
the
and
lime.
then some of them went through the line. Nobody put any flavors in. That's what this tastes like. It's like the archetype. Like this is like the first citrus fruit probably tasted like this. I mean, not really, because evolution.
Nobody tell Daniel about citric acid.
No, citric acid is different.
Citric acid is the pure citrus, or the citric, but obviously it tastes closer to lemon than
that's
other
like the
things.
citric acid. That's like the citric acid part of it. But a citrus fruit is not a citrus acid, right?
Sure.
It's,
I mean, tomato has a little bit of citric acid in it as well.
yeah. And it probably still does, but it's like the little juicy things just are filled with sugar water instead of grapefruit flavored sugar water.
If you ever get the chance, there's an Australian native fruit called a finger lime, and it has little, in contrast to an orange, how the segments are all ovular shaped in an orange or in like regular citrus. These ones are all round, little round balls of citric bursts of flavor, and also they don't connect to each other. So if you think of an orange and you get like a segment, and you pull the segment apart, and you can sort of like separate all the individual bits.
Yeah.
Right. So these ones don't stick to each
texture. Like it feels so good when it's like on your mouth, and there's all these little things, and then they pop, and like all this little sugar juice.
Right. So these ones are individual spherical objects, and they don't stick to each other. They're just like individual circles.
That's
and
crazy.
So yeah, so they're used as a like novelty food, like a caviar, because they pop like a caviar. And so you'll get like garnishes made out of it. It's an Australian native plant. It probably hasn't made it to the rest of the world, but it's fascinating. Sure, I certainly can.
Because that sounds really cool. It's like they're like little containers filled with delicious, like they're like gushers. It's like gushers, like original gushers. Nature's gushers.
Okay, so this is the shape of the lime, and you can see the little round things are unconnected to each other. So you open it up, and they sort of they taste like a lime. They're kind of sour, and they come in different colors, but they all taste pretty much the same.
You got to genetically engineer that to make them not taste like a lime.
Well, like to make them sweeter.
Yeah,
that could be possible. You could probably just breed them to be sweeter.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Breed them.
But they're fascinating. And you can also see they look a little bit caviar like. These are these little round balls.
Yeah, that's like fancy stuff.
Yeah.
Use it all the fancy ones.
That's essentially what happens. It gets used. Anyway, that's put that on the list for one day when you travel to Australia to try finger.
Yeah, I totally.
They're only in season some of the year. Say again. I don't know what about the biosecurity laws. I can definitely send them out, but I don't know if they'll arrive. And also they're a fruit. They don't exactly transport so easily. All right. So sensual desire, delicious fruit experience. And then
so that's good. And that's what you get once you get out of these things, is that you get to enjoy shit a lot more. It's not as cool. Like this story is not as like I don't get to like lord it over people or have high status because I enjoyed eating this like fruit. And like the way I enjoyed it, but
you get to enjoy it for yourself.
Huh?
You get to enjoy it for yourself.
Yeah, and you can enjoy it with people too. And when you enjoy that stuff with people, you feel connected to them.
Nice. Okay, so the next fetter is ill will.
Ill will. Let's talk about ill will. I think I'm getting over it. I used to have really bad ill will. Not too bad, but I had some like very blatant ill will.
Right. So ill will is the like the blunt form is I wish negative on this other person. So
I don't really do that.
right. So there would have been a time in your life when you did, when you were like,
yeah, it's when I felt trapped. It's when I feel trapped. That's when I feel that way. I get like, yeah.
Right. Where somehow your mind goes, I know how I'll solve this problem. I wish that person will suffer.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's kind of like a weird, like, I'm so angry that they should feel bad. Like, I wish they will suffer.
Yeah.
And so this one, I find this
now
one.
I do. I wish people would realize the suffering that they're already experiencing.
Right. Well, that's like, I like this one because it's so obvious when it's there and when it's not there. Or like, I guess it's not obvious when it's gone. It's obvious because it hasn't come back in a while. So it was just a matter of, it's not like I have many enemies in the world, but there was like a couple of people were still annoying me or making me angry or whatever. And then there was a definite like, oh, there isn't really like, if I go back to my high school bully or something like, but at some point it went from like, I don't like them. I wish they would suffer to like, I hope they find their way in the world. Sort of like, I mentally am at peace with their memories. That sucks. That it did suck for me when I had
pretty
the
big.
But it's the like, I no longer wish ill upon that being. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the most part, and this one's a bit tricky because when it's dormant or when it hasn't been back in a while, but I don't know if you ever know that it's never coming back. There's in the 12 boomies, 9 boomies.
That's kind of true for all of this.
Yes, you could just sort of drop back. You could just have a moment of ignorance and start again halfway up to the stack again.
Yeah, and then you wake up and you've lost all your levels.
Right. Yes. It seems to get easier and easier to like the moving further along the stages is a matter of you may momentarily re-enter the stream and like suddenly like fall all the way down the stack. Like, oh, yep.
Yeah, but if you've done it before, it's easier, and then
yes, the more times you do it, it gets easier again.
Yeah, and if you enjoy doing it, this is the big trick, is that you got to enjoy doing it. Because if you enjoy doing it, then when you fall back all the way again, you're like, okay, whatever. Like,
right.
It was fun.
But if you're like, what the hell? I'm starting a spiritual journey again. You're not going to enjoy You're not going to enjoy the journey. You're like, starting again. That's why we like the the idea of beginner's mind, because the beginner is like, how does this work? The 10th time through, you're like, I've done this before. You need to go back to that, like, how does this work? The nice, open, spacious, curious beginner's mind.
It's like the second or third time, it's like, oh, I have to do this again. But it's like by the 10th time, like you don't make it to the 10th time unless you become peace.
Right.
Right? Like, that's true. Like, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Like, I still desire to progress down the spiritual path, and so I must learn by repeating.
Yeah, and then like I don't know. For me, I like to have fun with it too, right? So I'm like, oh, I've done this before. Like, let's try a different way.
Right. So this one, number 5, is ill will. It's obvious when it's there. It's pretty clear when it hasn't been back for a while. I think it surprises you if it ever pops out. Like you haven't had it for a while, and suddenly you're like, wow, that person made me so angry that I'm like, I wish ill upon them. I haven't done that in ages. Wow. But it's also like, it's a matter of the more you become at peace with the world, the easier it is to travel through it, right? There may be people who bother you, but you don't get bothered by them. And so they like, I describe it more like water off a duck's back. Things happen and you just let them go so easily because, there's no ill will there. But that's so that's they with all the fetters, they start to shake before they fully release, so that you may notice less and less of it before you really get free of it. I'd say
I think it depends on how you're doing it. Yeah.
I'd say to work with ill will, you may want to think about the consequences of having ill will, or like watch yourself have ill will. Like you'll have ill will and you'll wish bad upon someone, and then like you'll watch them in the world, and then you'll see something bad happen. You'll be like, "Oh no, was that my ill will? Was it because I had ill will that bad things happened?" And then you'll beat yourself up for a while, and then once you drop the ill will, like sometimes bad things happen to people, and you're like, maybe that's connected. Okay, yeah, they deserve what they got, but it's not an ill will thing.
That like okay, like I'm not saying that's not a step forward, because I think that definitely is a step forward. But you're still like you're playing with that. Like maybe you don't have ill will, but you enjoy that when harm comes to them. Like,
and that also
those
falls
look
away too.
Similar to, like I get there's a difference, and that is progress, and I don't want to discount that. But I think at the end of the day, you want to just like the ill will is or the hate or the anger at people it's a poison pill that you swallow and hoping it kills your enemies.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't.
So
like it makes you sick.
And I would say, as you pay attention to,
you're gonna poison them, just poison them. Don't fuck around.
Right. I would say, as you pay attention to the way that it poisons you, you'll be like, this isn't very fun. Like, it was fun at first to have ill will, to like, I hope something bad happens to them. And then very quickly you're like, oh, I'm like angry. I'm bitter. I'm like, I'm out of controllably uncomfortable here.
Yeah, because like this is like if like let's say the non-duality way, like you experience the world, but you're not really like it's just part of you experiencing another part of you. And so you've just created, like you've just hated yourself.
Yeah.
Like don't hate yourself.
Well, it's just not gonna do very much
long life good ahead of you. Be nice to yourself. It's gonna get hard.
Right.
Okay, it's hard when you're mean to yourself.
That's number 5. Number 6 is a little bit, we get into trickier territory.
Number 6 is our high level.
Well, but you can have these fetters starting to fall away before you get there.
Yeah. So it's when you fully abandon them, then or when you're in the thing, those things are fully abandoned, or if you fully abandon them, I guess you are those things. But this is really, you want to be dealing with all this other stuff first. Material rebirth desires. Well, is this material attachment, like or form attachment?
I want to say that you probably end up dealing with them in roughly this order anyway, because you can't be your mental state is not quiet enough to notice your desire for material existence until after you've gotten rid of your central desire, your ill will, your attachment to rights.
If you're an identity view, you're not going to know what your material rebirth. What is material rebirth desires?
Right. So
that's form attachment, right?
Right. So this is material rebirth desire is talking about the material jhanas. So jhanas 1, 2, 3, and 4, which we have to do a video on in the future. Jhanas 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah.
And so a desire to be born, rebirth is a weird translation for to exist in the state of material so the 4 jhana states, the bliss, joy, contentment, equanimity, a desire to exist in the state of either bliss or joy, or like you desire that state. That's the material. The desire to be reborn in is the desire to be conscious in that state.
No, I think it's attachment to the state.
Rebirth,
because you should be conscious while experiencing.
No, but it's a desire to like leave whichever state you're in now and get into that state. So it's a desire to leave whichever state you're in now and get into that material rebirth, get into that state. I wish to enter.
But then it's like chocolate level, where it's chocolate test, where it's like, because like if you still like it, you still like it, but it's, do you need to know you're attached to it?
Yes, that's right.
All those things.
That's exactly.
And I think it's for me, I think it was also like it's like the specific ones, because like all the genres are good and they're all enjoyable, and there's like the cycles through them is like there's like the main joy.
Mhm.
And but if you find one, then you can get attached to it.
Right.
Like you get attached to always being like excited.
Mm. You
Or,
can
or always being
you
sad.
can sort of become a toxic thrill seeker, or a toxic free love hippie. Like everything has to be love, or I have to kick it out of my life.
Yeah, everything is meta, like and like it's just like everything is love, and like, dude, but that's like everything is love, but also we're doing things now, and those things are important.
Right. So again, you're right about the chocolate test. Like, can you like that without really craving it? And I would say, so with 6 and 7. So 7 is about the second 4 jhanas. So jhana 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wait, one sec before we get there. I think it's also like, oh shit, I wasn't gonna say it's like attachment. It's like needing to be in a certain one and not, it's like control of your internal experience. I think is a big one. It's like in control of your internal states, like, oh, I need to be in this state or this state, versus like there's states happen, they go through things and it's natural, and let go. That's how I experience it.
Right. As opposed to, oh no, I've been knocked out of my free love hippie state. I have to get back there.
Yeah. And realizing you're knocked out and you're in this other place, and that other place is also good and real, and there's a heaven there.
Right. So it's particularly, it's the suffering of desire there, I desire that other state. Like I notice I'm not in the state that I want to be in, and I'm suffering because of it. And that's so with 6 and 7, I would say that the way to resolve them is to spend a bunch of time in, like, the cool thing about the jhanas is you can have them as much as you like. All you need to do is meditate. You just go there, right? And
yeah, and in this case, meditate is all you need to do is sit and feel good.
Right. Like, wow, like what an easy, like, turns out sometimes it's hard to do that.
Easy.
Right. I was having simple, but not even like 6 months ago, I was having a meditative path where I would meditate and I would just feel terrible. It would be horrible. I'd be like, oh, this is really bad. I hate this. I don't like this. And then I'd finish meditating and I'd be like, oh, this is fine. And I'd have a lovely day. But there was something I needed to go through on my meditative cushion that was needed. And I really don't have a good explanation, but it was fascinating at the time. And I was meditating. So I will stay with it and meditate because that's what I'm doing. But the meditation itself was full of like, oh, I hate this. But so the cool thing, there's a book, Tina Rasmussen and Paxi Yu, I think it was, proposed that there's an experiential knowing that comes from spending a bunch of time in the jhanas, right? Which is that they proposed 3 hours. You spend at least 3 hours in a big chunk of 3 hours, like a really solid long chunk in each of the jhanas. And you go like, with that 3 hour chunk, or the way that I did it was lots of smaller chunks, lots and lots of smaller chunks. And eventually it also worked. But the 3 hour chunk, all of the bits of your mind that are like, I want to get excited now. I want to get excited now. They get their fill of like, oh, I could be excited anytime I like. I don't have to like go outside and climb a mountain to be excited. I can just do it here and now. And then you feel free from the desire for excitement because you can just be excited already. And the same goes for the joy. You can just be joyous without, you don't have to put your joy elsewhere in order to go get it. Like maybe if I eat the right ice cream, I'll be really joyous. No. Like the ice creams, the joy. And to be clear, the sensual desire is the desire to eat the ice cream. The material rebirth desire is the desire to feel good about it. Like that, they're like, there's the external and the internal.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so they're obviously connected.
Chocolate, then that sensual desire. If you desire the feeling you got when you had the chocolate last time,
that's the material,
rebirth desire.
Interesting. Right. That's right. And so there needs to be a skill of also relinquishing that material rebirth desire, not by giving it up or turning away from it and being like, we can't have nice things, but by being like, I've had enough. In the same way you're like, oh, I don't need more chocolate right now because it's delicious, but I don't need it right now. You can also go, oh, I don't need in that needy sense. I don't need to feel joy right now because I have enough.
Yeah, I don't need to feel good. Everything's fine.
Right.
Yeah, that does happen to me. Like, I find when I take things slowly and like experience the thing, like I'll go on errands or adventures or stuff, but then when I get home, I don't need to relax because I've been relaxed the whole time.
Nice.
I don't do that every time. Like very
No.
does often happen that
Right.
I need relaxing stuff. I'm not. There are people that are like that. I think what's his face? Sadhguru is like that. Where he
Classic line of wherever you go, there you are. And so there's nowhere to rush to.
Like he doesn't need to. He's like, they're like, how do you unwind? He's like, I just don't wind up.
Which is great once you can get there, but
yeah,
not good instructions for everyone else who is currently wound up.
I'm already relaxed.
Yeah,
I'm always relaxed. Like there's no there was this like a period of time I think where I was like that, but then I took on more harder tasks, and now no, I'm not like that again. I do need to relax. But yeah, that is good shit. I forgot about that actually.
Right. So that's 6, and then 7. Immaterial rebirth desire is about the formless jhanas, the immaterial jhanas. Yeah. So 5, 6, 7, 8 being boundless space, boundless. I'm going to rush through these. Boundless space, boundless consciousness, nothingness, and not nothing and not something are the 4 immaterial jhanas. So 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's a desire to be in that state of awareness to those, or the state of spaciousness, or the state of perception of boundless consciousness, which is like, hey, it's nice to be there, but again, like, if you're lusting for them, that's
the total like infinite of expansion of the universe and something, and just like existing in that feels amazing. But then
attached to it is unhealthy.
If you're attached to it, then it becomes small. That's the thing. Boundless space becomes very small once you're attached to it. It poisons it.
Right. And so particularly for this one, it was probably in the last 6 months that I had to go through this, and I was like, oh, I can see how the desire to be in a state is causing me suffering. Like, I've got heaps of these states, I've spent hours in them here and there, but it's like there's still a desire to go back there or to be in a better state. And that's particularly it. It's the desire to be in a better state. And there's this cool thing, you go and you meditate, you're like, I feel great, and then you open your eyes and you stand up, and 5 minutes later you're like, oh, I'm not as good as I was when I was meditating 5 minutes ago. And then immediately, like that, as soon as you notice that, you're like, oh, I could go, if I went back and meditated, then I could be at the top of my game again. Right. And then that's a desire, and that causes a suffering. And there's a like, oh, I need to let go of my attachment to being in a perfect state in order to let go of that extra bit of suffering, right? It was nice to be in that state, but there was also a suffering in like desiring to get there. And so if I can get there, and it's
because you're discounting your current reality,
right?
And that's just going to cause you more suffering because you're not seeing the truth of what is.
Right. If I can get there, if it doesn't,
you're rejecting it, and so you're rejecting yourself.
Right. If I have time to meditate, great. If I don't have time to meditate, well then, damn well, either I should make time or I should let go of the attachment to having time to meditate. Nothing is permanent. Even time to meditate is not permanent.
Yeah.
And so I need to be at peace with, maybe I won't get to a different state or a better state, or somehow I need to be whatever state I am in now. Oh man, that I need to be at peace with it. There's like, even as I describe, I'm like, oh yeah, there's some real suffering there in like, well, I'm here. This is how it is. Even if I'm miserable about being here, this is here. And this is like once you can put that at peace, you can travel through all the hell realms. You can have a bad day and you can just like, this is just a bad day. Like life goes on.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful thing if you can get there. And then like, if you're, for me, I do a lot of work with people. So working with someone, they're having a bad time. I'm like, let's go there. Let's see what's there. There's some reason why your system is having a bad time for you. Let's see if we can go there and work out what's going on. So you don't have to have a bad time, but we're going to have to go there to find out. And so now I'm at peace with, like, previously a while ago, I would like ride the roller coaster with people and I'd be like, oh no, I've been down today. This has been hard because I've been working with people, and like emotional roller coaster. And now I'm like, well, we go where we go.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to work with.
And woo, it's so much less work.
Yeah. And it's also like, I just like, once I hang up the call,
wave.
once I hang up the phone call with someone, it just falls away again. I'm like, oh, that's nice. There's like little bits of residual sometimes, but for the most part now I'm like much more free. Okay, number 8. Ready for number 8?
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I think I have a lot of problems with this one.
Yeah. So number 8 is I have all you have.
Oh wait, no, I thought it was something else. Conceit.
Yeah.
What is conceit? Wait, I thought it was. Oh, maybe I'm confusing it because one of them is like sarcasm, essentially. But I don't think it's this one.
Sarcasm.
It's not sarcasm, but it's like when you're saying the wrong thing, like hyperbolic or something, where you're like whatever the category of things where sarcasm and hyperbole would, where what you're saying is wrong.
Like exaggeration. It's not on this list. I know what you mean. It might be on a different list, but it's not on this.
It's on a different list, I think, because it is one of the symptoms of an arhat.
This is
they don't do that.
The Buddha is very good at lists. There's a book called The Buddha's Lists, and it's like, you know, the 10 of these, the 3 of these.
Is it a list of Buddha lists?
Yeah. It's great. That's like,
I bet it's on Wikipedia's page of lists of lists.
Lists of lists. What is this?
And there's one that's lists of lists of lists. But yeah. So yeah, no, I've confused conceit.
List of Buddha's lists. There is. So Lee Brathington is a great teacher, and it has a page on the website. List of Buddha's lists. So list of 1, list of 2, list of 3, list of 4, lists of 5, lists of 6, lists of 7,
that's
2 lists of 8.
To list them, like you list by how many are in it. Like that's got to be like the least useful way of organizing it.
Well, you just scroll down to like, you know, the 10 fetters or 37 factors of awakening, you know.
I heard that. It's like a dictionary. It's not like
no, it's not meant to be an actual practice instruction. It's a reference list. Anyway, conceit. So conceit is the classic, I mean, translated as pride and arrogance, but it's generally the like, I am better than you thing, which is you've just been, take this as the picture. You've just been on the spiritual path for quite a while, and you've been like learning all this stuff, how the world works and how suffering works and how everything is. And you encounter these people who haven't been on the spiritual path, and you're like, you guys don't know anything. Like you just don't know shit that I know. Like I'm gonna have a little, like it's very understandable to have at least a little bit of conceit towards other people, even if you're like, I've been meditating with this guy for 12 months, like spiritual friend. He doesn't know what I know. Like there's a conceit there.
Yeah. What does conceit mean though? Like, cause like there is like, if you know something and somebody else doesn't know, like you do know that and they don't. And
right. But it's more like, I think I'm better than you because I know it. Excessive pride in oneself, says Google. So
like, is LeBron James that he recognizes that he's the best basketball player? That conceit?
It depends on how he holds it. If he's like, I am a great basketball player, I'm really good at basketball, would you like help? I can teach you, like, let me share my skills. Or if he's like, I will always be better than you, that's conceit.
Well, I think they do, like, I will always be better at you because I will always be working at my maximum. I don't know if this is true about him, but this is what I hear as someone who doesn't follow sports.
Conceit is that I am better
It
than,
tries to be relevant.
like to try and universalize this consciousness is better than other consciousnesses because it's me. Like I am better than the me is better than the others. That's the conceit.
I see.
And
And then so this is the contrast with like, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ever,
you can be different to other people. You can have superior knowledge and wisdom, but the conceit is that real, even like superior knowledge or wisdom, like even someone who you perceive as not knowing, like baby Jack, right? He's not even one yet. He has knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't know anything about the world. Should you be conceited about him? Probably not.
No, he's got serious, because he embodies youth in like ways that I don't have access to anymore.
Right. So you have like further down the spiritual path than him, but he's got the embodied youth.
But like, I don't think I am even necessarily, because like there's no, like, going down the spiritual path, a lot of it is realizing like all this dumb shit you did and like fixing that. But
it's
like,
also like not being attached to the spiritual path.
Right? Like, he hasn't been alive long enough to do dumb shit.
Right. He hasn't suffered enough to realize that there is a need for a spiritual path.
Yeah. So it's like, in a way, he's very much like this beacon of joy and presence, like being present. Like, we're talking being present, like he schools me on that for sure.
Totally. Yeah, so that
and
conceit,
like pure experience of joy, like he still schools me on that.
Conceit's a tricky one because I'd say it's like the ill will, but you don't know if it's fallen away. You only know that it hasn't been back for a while. Like
wait, I'm still on the kid one. I will say that I am better at survival than he is.
Fair enough, and that's not being conceited. That may just be true.
He doesn't. His survival instinct is not.
Well, it hasn't developed yet. He doesn't have the skill.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make you better than him. It just makes you better at survival than him.
Yeah, so I'm better at survival than him, but I don't think I'm better than him. I don't even know if I'm better than him, like the spiritual path. I'm better at articulating it than him, but
given that he doesn't have language yet, yeah, fair enough.
Can't speak yet. But like, yeah, like he's like a baby and he's active and curious and stuff, and he just does things. Like, he just does what he wants. I don't know. So I guess that's it. So I'm not conceited in that. I'm recognizing the consciousness. Like, consciousness to consciousness is like, still like kind of equal terms, but I do recognize that like I'm bigger than him. I could take him in a fight for sure. And yeah, I'm better at survival than he is.
Right. So conceit's particularly tricky because it's sneaky in the way that conceit is particularly tricky because it's sneaky in the way that it hangs around and it remains like anytime you think you're better than someone else, like I am superior to thou.
Yeah, I practice this one a lot because you don't want things, you don't want to be in charge of things or like take over things or have rights or whatever just because you're you, because that's like pure conceit. It's like, if I'm doing something, if I'm like, no, I should be doing this, it's because like the world is in such a way that this is where it ends up. Right? Like, I should be holding him, he shouldn't be holding me. But that's a function of the world. It's not because of me, or I
can also believe that I'm better at a skill and should be leading this conversation or should be leading this task, right?
Yeah.
And I can know that because I know myself and I'm pretty good at it. I can do all that without the conceit. I can just be like, yeah. And if someone else like, I want to try, I can be like, okay, but remember these details, and they can just do it.
Yeah. Like, you could be like, I'm the best at this, so I should do it. I'm best at being in charge, so I should be in charge, right? And then you got to like talk about that, like, is that true or not? And I think that's like a big part of the path, is to be able to like have someone say like, oh, you have these negative things and that's why you shouldn't be in charge, and then not get like triggered or stuff, right? Like, you want to be kind of staying objective, but not like necessarily like detached. Like you want to still be there, but engaged. Be there and engaged, but not, but like accepting truth as it comes, as it is.
So I feel like I have a little bit more work to do on conceit. I'm not done there. Like there's still, it sneaks in here and there, and I'm like, oh, how do I not be conceited here?
Does this ever stop? Like for me, it's just like a thing I'm always doing.
I think
I'm always trying to figure it out and deal with it.
I think it reduces, and I've noticed it has reduced since the days in which I was reading many textbooks and learning great knowledges, and then considering myself more knowledgeable than other people and therefore better. It's sort of like relaxed a bit. Like I was like, yeah, I value myself, and then I was able to like be more at peace with it. So I think it continues to fall away until such time as it's just really, really rare.
Because like I feel like I do practice this a lot, but it doesn't seem like it is reduced and it's easier to deal with. I mean, it does show up less, but it doesn't seem like it's a thing. Like I can't really conceive of myself not having to do that.
I think that it's also all of these chains, all these links in the chain sort of connect each other. So as you clean up your earlier ones, the later ones get a little easier, a bit more revealed. So it is that like restlessness lasts a while, the next one, but with less of the rest of them, there's less restlessness as well.
Yeah, it's those restlessness, like inability to be still.
Okay, well, you want to switch to restlessness? We can go.
Oh, I thought you were.
Yeah, well, so the next one, number 9, is restlessness.
Yeah. So what is restlessness?
So I would describe restlessness as the fundamental restlessness of reality. Like you try and sit still, your mind goes brr, 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 like it keeps going. Right.
Oh, okay.
That's a remarkably powerful quality that is very hard to get it to just stop being restless.
Yeah.
And I think that one doesn't fall away until all the other ones are starting to like really get thin on the ground. Like all of this meditating and you're still restless. Like all of this.
Well, there's so much less. Like if you deal with all the other stuff earlier, like there's just less things to be restless about.
Right. There's less doubt. There's less like ritual. There's less sensual desire. There's less ill will for other people.
Yeah, it's like less attachment.
Desire for material, immaterial rebirth.
So you don't get pulled. You kind of just move. Which is much better. It's much less. There's much less action in those cases.
But I can almost guarantee you sit down to meditate, and your mind will start going places. It'll try and do things. It'll get restless.
Yeah.
And
this happened to me yesterday too.
I suspect that also restlessness is partially connected to the body. And so you need to relax your body enough that and like release your emotions, and then sort out any tension in your body, and I say tension specifically, any tension in your body, so that your mind doesn't like rush up to your brain and start like spinning thoughts about things. It can just dwell without having to do. And that involves like relaxing your heart rate and relaxing your blood pressure and relaxing muscle.
It's meditating into your body.
Yeah,
is how I learned this from. This is what Monastic Academy likes, this one where you meditate. They have a specific way of saying it, but it's like you meditate with your body. You know, it's I think a lot of times people meditate with their mind, and like your mind is much smaller. Like you should use your whole body. Yeah,
that's the start of the path. Is you start with the mind, and then
you can start with the mind. Yeah,
like you start with identity view. You start up there, and then you start like organizing your mind all the way down.
Yeah,
until you get to restlessness. Now, number 10 is ignorance, and I'm pretty sure that one never falls away. or I can give, what I can do is I can give the philosophical argument for why it never falls away. The proposal is that ignorance will keep coming back because one moment from now, time will have ticked forwards and reality will be slightly different. And you will not know what you knew a moment ago will not necessarily apply to the next moment. And so fundamental ignorance keeps returning, right? As a fetter.
No. Okay. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying that example I think is incorrect because you know this. So your pacing should be that your realization happens the moment that you realize it.
Right. So one thing you can do
the past, you should be realizing the present.
One thing you can do is keep the object of your attention always on the future, always on the new information, the thing that just changed. And that should sort of get you to catch ignorance the moment it happens, every moment it happens. But
I don't think it's exactly the information that's coming forward. It's like how you would process it. It's because the information comes in and then you process it and then you have reactions and then you acknowledge it and accept it. So like that's where you want to be at that moment.
Right. Where the information comes in, you want to be, yeah.
No, it's after
the moment of processing.
No, it's like when you're done processing.
Right.
When you're done processing and then you realize what's going on, that's the moment you want to be. Right. And so you're like your center of consciousness. I think this is what I think, at least. I don't know for sure. But this is like, that's where you want your consciousness to be, is at the moment of realization. That way your whole existence is you realizing things.
Right. You're permanently, like, your mind is permanently on insight, right? That would be.
Yeah, you're permanently in realization.
Yeah.
And that I think there's no ignorance there. Doesn't mean you don't know things, but you're not ignorant.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there really is no ignorance, or there is ignorance, but you're perfectly catching it all the time and perfectly at peace, in theory, perfectly at peace with it.
I think that's a really high level, right? Like, but I think it's not like the ideal. That's higher than like I think where I am. Like I don't think I'm there, but so kudos if that's where you're at. But I think like technically the thing that you want to be doing is existing in realization, or realizing realization or something.
Right.
I don't know how to do that. And I don't even know if that's true, like necessarily, in the sense that if you're realizing the realization, like you're realizing that you're also not realizing everything. So there is also those things. And I don't know that you can like fully have that stack all the way. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is beyond me. But I said at the beginning, so you guys can't.
Well, this is the, like,
I said at the beginning.
It's one thing to intellectualize the list, and another thing to like be able to live the whole list or feel it perfectly. So at first we intellectualize and then we work through it. So I know that I've described, I think I got some conceit left. I got a little bit of restlessness here and there. And like, I tell you what, I sat down with a bunch of people about a week ago. There was 7 of us. We were organizing something. And 3 hours later, I was like, oh, can't sit down anymore. And I was standing up and moving around. There's like I can't sit still for 3 hours, for more than 3 hours. I got all 3 hours, but there was like hour 4, and I was like, oh, I'm not,
it's hard to do something past 3 hours.
Right. It's also a quality of restlessness. I recognize that I was up and walking and moving. And
yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm just like, oh, I guess I need to stretch. I guess I need to move. I guess I need to whatever. And, that also, this is restlessness is something that gets worse. Like, I didn't have a problem in the first hour or two. It was after 3 hours that I really was like, oh, I guess I'm restless.
Yeah, I think like 3 hours, past 3 hours is not, like, you don't get past 3 hours through willpower. You can do 3 hours through willpower, but past that, you were never doing something hard in the first place. Or you were never.
So you can do it by like strong interest. Like, I'm super interested in this. 3 hours later, you can like propel yourself a bit more.
Like, you were you were in the zone, like you were in flow state or samadhi or something, like you were just existing, or you know what I mean, like you weren't putting in effort in the first place. That doesn't mean that you weren't, and I don't mean this in a negative sense, I mean this in like the way we talk about effort. Like you weren't in coercion, sorry, effort's the wrong word. You weren't in coercion at all.
Like self-coercion.
Yeah. You weren't in self-coercion if you keep doing it past 3 hours and you're enjoying yourself. And ignorance, the way I see it, is that, like, at least the thing I'm aiming for is that I'm always right.
Like you act in your correctness and you don't act in your
I act in my
certainty.
correctness and I speak in my correctness, like all the thing. Everything I do is right.
Like the noble eightfold path with the right action, right intention, right thought, right livelihood, the eight right things.
Yeah, and to me, it's like if you've hit the state where everybody thinks that you're right, or at least like you're righter than everything, then you're there. Which, by the way, I'm not claiming this at all.
I desire to be in the right and good and all the time. I don't know if I'm there. I can see how that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I like this, and this is what I'm aiming for as well. But I'm also like skeptical that I can get there. So I guess I have doubt in the Buddha. Oh shit. I'm all the way. It's no. Here I thought I was so far.
You have doubt that you can get there, or doubt that there is a path? Because if you believe that there is a path, then that's fine. You don't have to know how to get there, or that you can certainly get there in this lifetime, or
I don't know. Maybe I don't doubt that I can get there, but I don't see how I can get there is maybe a more accurate way to say it.
Fair enough.
Like, I don't see how to get there.
That's fine. You might see the path when you get a bit closer.
Yeah, that's not gonna help.
No. Like, sure, you can try follow the eightfold path, and that might help. But I would say that the path may become more apparent when you get a little bit further. Like, you only need to see the next few steps, and then you'll get there. It's the thing about paths. You keep going down the path, and you get there.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Aren't paths a weird thing? Like, if you think about like a path that goes through the forest, like you're completely lost, but you're just following this path, so you believe you're going to be okay. Like, paths are a weird concept because like you don't know what's going on. You're just you only see like the next little bit in front of you, and you don't even like, it doesn't even necessarily seem like you're heading the right direction. You're just doing the thing. Paths are weird.
Yeah,
like ants. You know how they follow the thing, but then they sometimes get caught in circles.
Right. I will agree with you that paths are weird, and I'm like, how do I even conceptual grab at what the heck is weird about a path? Like, that itself is a weird. Yeah. So those are the 10 fetters. We did it. Woo!
Hooray! We beat them.
Hooray! We have now become enlightened.
Yeah.
I wish, but I find them really interesting. It seems like you can map where you are sort of by the fetters, or by which ones haven't visited in a while. You can be like, oh, I don't really have ill will for other people. It means I'm like, that's fallen away. Or you can be like, I'm still annoyed by people and their shitty rituals. Like, okay, that's where I'm at. And then later.
Oh no, can you be annoyed at people? I don't think annoyed is one of the fetters.
Well, that's ill will. You have ill will towards them.
No, I get
that's a mild form.
And I get annoyed at a lot of people, but I don't have ill will towards them.
Right. Well, there's like, you can be annoyed for fun, or you can like be annoyed because
I'm like genuinely annoyed. But that doesn't mean I wish
you can use annoyance as a transformative experience as well. Like, I'm going to express my annoyance so that you can see the suffering you're causing in others, blah blah blah. But
usually I'm just annoyed and I deal with it. But like that's usually on me. I think it's like when you have expectations of people that you shouldn't have had.
Yeah. Anyway,
Um,
I like this list. It's worth looking at. I hope we explained it well.
yeah, me too.
Including some clues on how to.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
What's your favorite fetter? Which one do you think shouldn't have made the list? Oh my god, we could do like the streaming thing where we do like the tiers. You ever seen those streamers where they do tiers and we'll like rate the fetters? They have tier lists nowadays. Like this is a thing. It's like a popular.
Oh, like here's the top 10.
So that's lists. That's lists. So that's like old school.
Right.
They still do that.
We need like hierarchical lists. That's the thing.
No, but they have like you have like a bunch of things on the bottom. So they'll have like on the bottom, let's say this bar, there'll be like the 10 fetters, and then we'll have a list on the side, and we'll go like 8 S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier,
yeah. Okay.
F tier. And then you put them in like the different lists. Oh my god, we should totally do that. That would be hilarious.
Like there's only 10 of them. I feel like you divide it by like 5 different things, and there's only 10 of them to organize.
Yeah, I mean, 10 is a lot because we have to go like, I think it belongs in this list because of this thing.
It's also, I've drawn some connections between the things on this list. So it does seem like sensual desire and material rebirth and immaterial rebirth desire have a connection there. And like ill will and conceit have a connection. They're a different quality of a very similar thing.
How would you rate them? Let's just do it now. Rate the 10 fetters.
Rate them by what? By like how difficult they are, or like how fundamental they are, or
just like which one from like the best to worst. But you don't have to rate them all if you don't want, but rate some of them. Which one's the best? I think the immaterial rebirth desire is the best. Because
I would I'd say that the first one is like big when you like
you think that's
first when you first get on the path is the big fireworks. It's like holy shit, what the heck was that? So that's really quite up there. And then like attachment to rites and ritual was not a thing for me. I just immediately
that's like fine. Low. That's like
but I don't know if it's someone else having a real hard time with it. Like is someone else having a real hard time?
Yeah, I think the ritual ones are D tier.
I found that doubt is kind of tricky because doubt you have to doubt your doubt in order to like
doubt's like
get a handle on it and like stop doubting yourself.
Yeah, I'd rate doubt as C tier. So like it could be B tier. I could be pushing that there, but I think. And
then like the desires, the 4, 6, and 7, the 3 desire fetters, they're all like. They're like hedonism. They're fun.
Yeah, sensual desire. I think I might also put it S tier, and then material desire. I think I'd put it A tier.
Yeah, all right. Like ill will, I wasn't that much of a fan of, and then like trying to clear out the last remains of ill will, I also wasn't a fan of. And same with conceit. It's just this one's a little bit in my blind spot. Maybe
conceit thinks it's S tier, but it's not.
That's a conceit thing to do.
Yeah, it's a conceit thing to do. So like you rate it higher than it is because you're like in that mindset because you've bought into its frame, but it's not S tier.
And then restlessness is just it's always freaking there. Like ignorance and
restlessness is annoying. Yeah,
they're just very difficult to get the last leg, and so you're like I've beaten all of the things. My mind is pretty much under my control. I'm stabilized. I understand the world, and then you're like, and I still have ignorance.
If you're ignorant, you're ignorant. But if you're restless, then you're not. Like your control is an illusion.
Well, you're like, what the heck is this? Eventually, you're like, what on earth is this restlessness? And then you can investigate it alone.
No, but restlessness is like the moment after motivation. Or it's like the motivation that didn't get captured or moved or something. Like it's excess like existence, or it's like excess life that hasn't been like integrated properly.
Right. And so
that's what it's hard.
Down regulated or be at peace with it or upregulate your find a good use for it.
Like no, because you can't, because that's all the other life that got like that's like now you're already in conflict. You know what I mean?
Well,
The second you try to do something about it, like you're conceited. You put yourself in this position over it. You know what I mean?
There should be a way to work with it without the conceit.
Yeah. And it's usually like we're the same. But like, how could you agree that you're the same as your restlessness? That's really hard. Like restlessness is S tier, A tier. Okay. Oh shit, A tier. No, restlessness is S plus tier.
And ignorance?
Because it's transcendence.
Okay.
And ignorance, I don't even know what ignorance is.
Ignorance is the unknown. It's got the plus tier.
I don't know. It stays at the bottom.
The big boss. You got to deal with it when you get there.
You can't rate ignorance because it's like it's the unknown. Like you don't know what it is. How can you rate it?
Well, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. We rated them. We rated the 10 fetters. That's fun. We gotta get the tier list. And then we'll put that. Oh my god. We should do a short video of the tier list.
Oh my god.
That would be amazing. Okay, let's close this and then we'll talk about
it. Okay. Psychotechnologies live.